self-control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. All right, everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm doing a little bit better today. I'm almost getting back to normal, getting close. I'm just on the fringe of normality, I guess. But I hope you guys are doing wonderful, and thank you so much for joining me and being a part of the journey into the Paranormal Portal. It's always an unknown what we're going to encounter once the portal goes live, but I hope it's always a fantastic and entertaining journey at the very least. So sit back, buckle up, grab a drink, and lower the lights. Unless it's daylight where you're at, then not much you can do. Put on sunglasses, I guess. I don't know. But I hope you're ready because it's time for bed. Oh, thank you, Dee. I do feel better. Yeah, today's better. Whenever I get a cold, it's kind of like my kryptonite. I don't know. And not that I'm normally a Superman, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, they always go from, my head down to my chest, and it's just the way it works. But it's basically an annual thing for me, sometimes biannual. And I really, for the most part, don't mind it, except I get really tired of breathing out of my mouth. And I really don't like sleeping because you wake up and your mouth tastes exactly like something slept in it, and you get that paste in your mouth. It's like, oh, God, your tongue is like a dry leather. It's horrible. That part I don't like. But I do know that, as I stated before, that illnesses, I believe, really actually serve a purpose. I think it's how our body purges a lot of crap, and, they are caused by, viruses and bacteria and all that. But I think that, by and large, we kind of need those things to just push out a lot of garbage. So I do believe that they have a holistic benefit to them in the most cases, like colds. I'm just talking about colds. There's a lot of illnesses that I don't believe do, but this is one that I think is just part of our it's kind of like changing the oil, so to speak, in your car. You just got to do it. And so we're all going to get colds. So I think it's probably good to at least picture them as a beneficial thing. And I have, heard from many people that would agree with that. So I hope it's not just me. But anyway, yeah, Nellie says, yes, we do. It helps the body. There you go. Thank you, Nellie. High five. I'm just, you're going to have to meet me halfway there. All right, guys. So this is the Bedtime Stories. I'm going to read you some good stories, I hope. I hope they're good stories. I always intend to have good stories. and I hope you enjoy them and enjoy the journey. I'm going to be watching the phone line because I'm expecting a call from Virginia's granddaughter. So, we'll see if she calls in. But if, Virginia, if you're in the chat when you call, just put a tag in there too because it'll help me see. Just say Paranormal Portal. We're on the phone. Or if Julia pops in, I don't know if she's in yet. But anyway. Yeah. Joe says, make sure you get that 27-point checkup with that oil change. Yeah. I don't know. I think I need some air in the tires, and I probably need new headers and exhaust, and I got all kinds of problems probably. But, yeah, you know how it is. But let me start off with a story. Thanks, Joe. That was good. Good humor. Thank you. I appreciate that. I can appreciate a good laugh. And again, I'm probably going to be muting myself quite a bit because I haven't been talking a whole lot today. So as I talk, then everything really loosens up and it gets all kinds of colorful. All right. So the first one is actually, oddly enough, the first story is coming from the state of Virginia. Go figure, Virginia. All right. So here we go. In the late summer of 1997, my dad and mom purchased an old home that had been in my father's family for over 200 years. Wow. It was 100 acres of rich fields that had brought forth the prettiest tobacco, and nestled in the valley was the huge white farmhouse. My great-grandmother had lived and died in that house, and since her death, the house had remained empty. When my parents informed us of their decision to buy it, I had mixed feelings about it. The house actually scared me, and it was really big and old and drafty, and at night you could hear things go bump in the night, so I wasn't exactly thrilled with their news. When we pulled up the gravel driveway on the Saturday afternoon, I looked up at the looming house, and I felt a cold chill run down my spine. Dad knew I wasn't real happy about the move, so he put his arm around my shoulder and told me that I could go in first and pick the bedroom that I wanted. I know that he was trying to make me happy, so I smiled and walked towards the house. And time passed, and we had already been living in the house for 2 months, and the night before Thanksgiving, the house was filled with family from out of town. My dad's mom was one of our guests, and when she saw the old house, she looked over at me and asked, "Have you seen your ghost yet?" Everybody laughed at her, but I didn't, and she wasn't laughing either. My grandmother has the gift of being psychic, so can see things, and she knows things that will astound you. So when she said this, I really took her seriously. Waving right back. The night after everybody had gone to bed, I went upstairs to my room and I laid down and I fell asleep, but was suddenly woke up when I heard laughing. I rose up and saw the ghostly figure of a little girl, and she was standing by my dresser, and she appeared to be about the age of 5 or 6 years old, and she had long blonde hair that hung to her waist, and she wore a white nightgown that had ruffles around the neck and wrist, and I tried to scream, but it was as if she held me spellbound. I felt paralyzed and I couldn't move, and she made no move towards me, but just stared at me. I was absolutely terrified and pulled my blanket up over my head, and my heart pounded in my chest, and the temperature felt both warm and cold at the same time, if that's even possible. I did not look again to see if she was there. The next morning I felt so stupid. Had she been a figment of my imagination, or had she been real? But even as I questioned myself, I knew that she had been real. I went in search of my grandmother and found her sitting on the back porch and... Hold on. Oh, there we go. She was old and her hair was snowy white, but her clear blue eyes were youthful and knowing. "Have you seen your ghost yet?" she asked again. I looked at her and said that I had. She told me not to be afraid of the girl because the spirit meant me no harm. I asked her why that she had come to me, and she said that she didn't know, but that the next time she came to ask her what she wanted. I asked Grandma how that I could talk to her, and she said that she suspected that I had the same gift, and she did, and that we were a bridge to the supernatural world. This actually scared me, but excited me at the same time. The next 2 nights passed, and I didn't see the girl, and I stayed up just to see her, but she wouldn't show herself. Grandma told me to be patient and that she would come back. because Grandma could feel her presence in the house. The next afternoon, I was reading in my room and I heard a sound coming from my closet. I got up from my desk and walked over to the closet, fully expecting to find her when I opened the door. I slowly turned the knob and opened the door, but she wasn't there. I was both relieved and disappointed. Excuse me. That night after supper, I told Grandma what had happened, and she said that the little girl was just teasing me, and I was a little upset that night and went to bed early. I don't know how much time had gone by, but I woke up to that warm, cold temperature again, and I knew that she was there. I looked over toward the dresser, and there she was. I wasn't scared of her this time. I just wanted to help her, so I looked at her and said hello, and she just stared at me and then vanished into thin air. I got up and ran to my grandma's room, and she was still awake when I walked in, and I told her I'd seen the girl, but that she would not say anything to me. She told me that the girl had passed on before she was ready, and that now she was lost and couldn't figure out how to get to heaven. I asked Grandma if she knew what had happened to her, and she said that she had died in a terrible way and that she had been murdered. I asked her to tell me more about the girl, and she said that after school one day the girl was walking home, and one of the field hands had grabbed her and took her to an abandoned tobacco barn out in the woods. And Grandma said that her father and a bunch of other men had went in search of her, and when she hadn't shown up for supper, and found her the next morning inside the barn, she had been killed. I felt so sorry for the girl and told my grandma so, and she said that that the girl's name was Elise, I think, and that Grandma's dad, my great granddad, had told her the story of Elise many times. Elise makes her presence known sometimes. You can hear her laughing out in the hall at night, or she may hide something from you. She's quite the prankster, and I'm not afraid of her. In a way, she's really actually comforting. I have my own family now and have moved to North Carolina, but I visit the home place on holidays, and I'll admit that I hope I catch a glimpse of the little girl. Cool story. Very cool. All right, so I'm just looking at the chat. Hold on. There it is. It's all loosening up. The muffler's getting all carboned up here. All right, the next one is from Pennsylvania. What's going on? How long is this one? This one's about a medium story, not really long. Excuse me. There we go. I think before my bedroom was actually mine, I was in the upstairs living room, and even then I knew that there was something weird about it. So when it became my room, I found out how strange and creepy it really was. I was about 5 or 6 when my mom and dad redid the upstairs living room to make it my new bedroom, and it was a few months after all the weird stuff started to happen. When things did start to happen in my new room, I really got scared, and I wouldn't go downstairs. I would go downstairs and tell my mom about it, and every time my mom would just tell me to go back to sleep, it'll be fine. I remember lots of things happening in my bedroom at night that was ghostly, but the one I still happens to me to this day is having that feeling of somebody watching you. I remember every night before I went to bed, I hated it because when I went to bed and turned off all the lights, I'd just lay there in bed with the feeling of somebody just watching me, staring at me, knowing that no one was in the room. So I would constantly look up at my door, which was always open, knowing that someone not human was standing there. And I knew this thing was watching me was not human, more like a friendly ghost or something like that. At first, I would get so freaked out and go downstairs and tell my mom, and of course, the same thing would happen, where my mom told me just to go back to sleep. So after a while, I just didn't get that scared by it anymore. I mean, from all the other stuff that was happening to me at the time in that room, there was no reason to get scared anymore. Of course, like every other night, I prepared myself for bed knowing that my friendly ghost was going to watch me, but this night wasn't like all the others. It was different. The feeling or energy that I had felt in my room was different. It was like an angry, sadness, depressing feeling, and now I really didn't want to sleep in my room. I did anyway, and at first I was just scaring myself, and I calmed down, and Then the feeling of being watched came, but this feeling wasn't like all the others. It felt like a really mean thing was watching me, like it was planning to hurt me or something. It was a really mean and violent thing, and I was terrified of it. I knew this wasn't the normal thing that watches me because the normal thing is actually nice. I could tell that this wasn't it. I was really scared by this time, so I looked up in my doorway and saw this huge black blob standing there. As soon as I looked at it, it quickly zoomed away. The black blob was in a man's shape, but not only did it feel evil, it looked evil. I still felt it, and I knew it was still there. So I hid under my covers, or as I like to call it, my blankie force field. That's awesome. And I was frozen under the covers for about a minute before I got up and ran as fast as I could out of my force field. And and out of the room, rather. I told my mom what happened, and she finally let me sleep with her that night. After that night, I never felt that angry spirit again. I still feel that thing watching me when I sleep, but by now I found a way to not feel it. I would just turn on my TV and fall asleep with it on. That seems to always work, but still don't mind that spirit is watching me. Now that I'm older, my mom told me a lot of things. I used to tell her about spirits or things that I wouldn't normally know, but I do. I hope you enjoyed the story. Yeah, I thought it was lovely. There we go. I don't know. These are just maintenance coughs. I don't know how long they're gonna last, but my voice is really gravelly tonight. Oof. Sorry about that. I don't mean to sound like like a chain smoker for my whole life or something, but I don't smoke, so I don't know. Just the wave of the cold. The next one is coming out of Indiana, but we got a call first, so I'm gonna get to this call. Hello, you are on the air. This is area code 870.
Hey, it's Virginia.
Hey, Virginia, how you doing?
I'm good. I got my granddaughter with me. Her name is Jamie.
Hey, Jamie, nice to meet you, and welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
She's going to have to talk louder.
No pressure at all.
So Jamie's been seeing things, of course, just like me and her daddy for pretty much her whole life. One time she came in to my room and said, "Nani, there's a ghost in the house." And I'm like, "Okay, well, where's it at?" And I went in the middle of the living room, and usually what I do is I just kind of close my eyes and feel where the energy pulls me to find the ghost. And she goes, "Well, it's standing right there." Ooh. And it was a little girl, like a little 2-year-old girl.
Aww.
And, so I didn't see it, but she could. And so I said, "Well, she's there for you." So Jamie asked the angels to come and get her and helped her cross over.
Oh, very cool. Wow. That's excellent,
yeah.
Jamie.
So, I just want to tell you a little bit about her. And so she has a story that she wants to tell. And this one, I wasn't there. So
cool.
She'll have to tell it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
I'll do it. Okay.
So one day I was at my dad's friend's house because my dad was working on his friend's truck.
Uh-huh.
And then we went inside to eat lunch in that house. There, people have been saying, like, it's haunted because, like, the lights kind of going on and off usually, and, like, the water runs.
Wow.
Like, without anyone turning it on sometimes and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of what the house was like. But the day we were eating lunch, we heard tapping, like, above the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually, like, this lady. So my dad could see the lady, and then the lady was, she thought she was dreaming, and she was waiting for, like, 50 years to, like, wake up from the dream. But my dad told her that she was actually dead, and she was really sad.
Oh.
And then, and it was funny because the lady thought my dad was actually Jesus, because he had a long beard at the time, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But he called an angel down to come.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's in heaven with her husband.
Oh, very cool. So your dad is also gifted as well?
Yes.
Oh, that's really cool. Wow. So is it pretty scary to be able to see these things for you, or is it really cool? How do you feel?
Well, I can't really see them anymore, but
Oh,
kind of used to, but not anymore.
oh, okay. So do you just feel them now more than see them?
I probably think. Yeah.
I think she's been scared a couple of times,
Mhm.
and I think she's trying to not see them.
Sure.
She's actually trying to close that door, and I told her, I was like, Jamie, I don't want you to do that because one of these days I'm going to die, and I want to be able to come back and talk to you. So I'm trying to encourage her to keep that door open,
Right.
and just to, help these little kids that need her help sometimes. Like I didn't see that little girl, but she did, and she was able to. She was only like 10 years old and helped this little girl cross over.
Wow.
So, I think she has a special gift too.
Mm-hmm.
But she has seen some scary things, and I think she's going to tell you another story about something scary if y'all want to hear it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One night I was at my uncle's house,
Mm-hmm.
and their house was like kind of scary because I don't know, it was just like they had like weird masks on the walls and stuff,
Oh.
and like I don't know, and stuff. But I was in his son's room, I think, before he was born, I think, and then but I was sitting on the bed and I saw this like really like scary shadow thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it I like ran from the room. It just kind of it was so scary.
I don't blame you.
I was really little that time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, my other son. Oh, go ahead, Brent. Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, yeah, that's got to be really scary, and being young, it's really hard to understand what those things are. So, I've just, even that you sat there for a little while, you had to be pretty brave, pretty brave.
Thank you.
He said thank you. My daughter-in-law had called me about that and told me what had happened. And Jamie says she doesn't quite remember everything, or I don't know if. What my daughter-in-law told me was that Jamie was like screaming or whatever, and holding on to her blanket, and she said that Jamie told her she saw something that looked like a dog.
Oh.
And it had a hold of her blanket, and she was trying to pull her blanket back, and my daughter-in-law said she actually saw a tear in the blanket.
Oh, geez. Wow. That's really scary.
Yeah.
But it kind of just like disappeared.
Well, thank goodness,
like
huh?
into like the dark.
Yeah, thank goodness. So she doesn't quite remember all of it, but I've asked her about that because that's what I was told. So I think she tries to block that stuff out, and I don't blame her.
Right. I think it's wonderful that you have those gifts, Jamie. But you gotta pretty much make your own choices about those things if you're okay doing it or not. But you're certainly you could be very helpful for a lot of people that need it. But it's got to be something that you choose for yourself. But I think that's an amazing thing.
She's just shaking her head, yeah. So she definitely has to think about it. I'm always asking her about stuff, and she's not sure. She used to be around me all the time, and now we've kind of moved apart from each other. So she's not like involved as she used to be, when
Sure.
she was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think she's kind of getting away from it a little bit, but she definitely remembers some things.
Yeah, well, the good thing is
But,
that you can help her through a lot of that. I think it's really hard when children are dealing with these things all by themselves and there's nobody to mentor them or help them process what they're dealing with. So the fact that you have the abilities as well, I think could be really powerful to help her at least process this stuff, you know.
Yes, and I'm trying to, teach her to be strong no matter what she comes across, and to
Right.
know that God's going to protect her,
Mm-hmm.
and that she just needs to call, for help if she's scared, but to not, of course she's going to show fear,
Mm-hmm.
but I just want her to be as brave as she can be against anything that she comes across.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. And it's a burden that I've never had, so it's hard to understand being on the outside looking in, but as a little child, seeing things that other people don't see, and horrible things sometimes, has got to be just a real heavy load. So it's a lot for a young mind to process.
Yes, absolutely. And it's kind of leading to what we were talking about in the email. Do you think I should go ahead and tell that
Oh, sure,
story?
by all means.
Okay. Well, I'll start telling it because she, yeah, okay, I'll start telling it. She was staying with me, and she could hear. Okay, well, I'll start a little bit further before she could hear things. In our house, when we would be gone for a little while and would come in, my dog would run through the kitchen or go in the kitchen, and then you turn the corner, and there's my living room, dining room, everything else. And so my dog would go around the corner and then just start barking like somebody's in my house. I mean, like growling, and I mean, it would kind of scare me. Like, I'm thinking I'm going to look around that corner and there's somebody in the house,
Right.
and if it's dark, I'm like reaching around trying to turn a light on.
Sure.
Never could find anything. Never did. And so a little bit of time went on, and I think I went to take a shower or something, and oh no, the first time I think I was outside, and Jamie was in the kitchen on the computer, and she come running outside, and she said, I hear something walking in the house. And I didn't, like I never could hear anything. All the dogs were outside, and she said it sounded like a dog walking, but she, we couldn't see anything, and it really scared her. And so I think a little bit more time went on, a week or two or whatever, and she was spending the night with me, and I had put her to bed in my bedroom, and I was going to go in the kitchen and get on the computer for a little while, and she was just screaming. She did not want to be left in there alone. She was terrified, and she's never been this way before.
Wow.
And, yeah, and so I run in there. It's like, what's wrong? And she said, I heard the walking again. And I was like, okay, this is it. She's terrified. There's something in here that I'm not seeing. I'm not hearing. It's hiding from me. And, like on here before, I've said, if something's hiding from me, I know it's not good. It's got to be evil.
Sure.
It just wouldn't be, being hiding like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I said, well, I've got to figure it out. And so she was laying there in the bed, and I told her, I said, cover your eyes up. I don't want you to open them for anything, because I know she's seen things before, and I didn't know what I was going to find. And so I told her to close her eyes, and I said, if you hear it walking, you just point, you just tell me where it's walking. Do not open your eyes for anything. And so I was trying to do my thing where I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm telling whatever it is to show itself. I'm not having this. You're not scaring my granddaughter. You need to show yourself. And so I was able to locate it. It was in my bedroom, and it's kind of hard to even tell the story. I'm getting emotional about it.
Sure.
But it looked like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. It was huge.
Mm-hmm.
It had like horns. It was huge. And of course, I didn't tell her anything what I was seeing at the time. I just told her to keep her eyes closed, cover up her eyes. And I seen it standing there, and it disappeared.
Oh.
And so I didn't know where it went. It just disappeared. And let me tell y'all now, this is before the newest cartoon came out. This was a little bit before the new Beauty and the Beast cartoon came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's what it looked like. And so it disappeared, and instantly she heard it walking, and she was like, trying to get my attention. She was like pointing. She was like, I think she told me, she said it went in the bathroom. Well, I thought that she meant that it went across the living room into the other bathroom, and she was like, no, Nani, it went in your bathroom. So she could hear it walking. And so I went in there, and on my way walking into my bathroom, I was told to tell her, I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry, y'all, but I was told to tell her to sing Jesus Loves Me and not stop singing it. And she said, how long do I sing it? And I said, until I tell you to stop. And so she just kept singing Jesus Loves Me. And I located it in the bathroom, and then I saw it again, and then it just disappeared. And that time I knew it was gone.
Wow.
I knew it was gone. I knew it was completely gone that time. I felt it, And I couldn't tell her that night what it was. I couldn't tell her. I was like, "What? It's gone." I just told her that. But the next day, I set her down, and I told her, and I explained exactly what I saw. And I told her that, she did it. She got rid of that thing. It was her. She was brave, and she did it.
Wow.
And I was very proud of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but wow, what an experience. Now, in your home, do you have protections on your home of any kind, or do you regularly, purge or cleanse or do prayer or, things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
I've smudged every corner. She used to have a bottle herself of salt water, and she used to spray everything in the house. I don't know where that thing came from.
Right.
I don't know how long it had been there.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. We are, like, our home is God's home.
Right.
So I don't even know how it snuck in there. I have no idea. I don't know. I feel like it followed somebody there.
That's what
I
I
think.
was thinking too. Is like
I really do.
it hitched a ride somehow, because it wouldn't be drawn into there of its own accord. It was inadvertently somehow dropped off, or it dropped off of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what came to me when you were talking about it. But I don't claim to have real powerful vision in that regard. But that's being gifted is also a beacon, for the other realm, and most of the time it's drawing people that need help, or are reaching out trying to get help, but sometimes the dark things find it too, and so that's just I guess a professional liability of it, but at least you know how to get rid of them.
Yes. I had help from heaven because they told me what to tell her. And I don't know why she could see it or hear it, not see it, but hear it, but it was hiding. But she could hear it walking numerous times. She had heard it, and it would be when I was in the shower or if I was outside and I wasn't in the house, that's when she could hear it walking.
That's really interesting.
And she knew it was something scary. She I don't know if everybody can, but us, mediums, psychics, whatever, we have that intuition, but I mean, it hit from me. It did. And so I don't know how it slipped past my radar, but I just wasn't ever expecting something like that,
Sure. And that's that. I mean, you're human. You're not a machine. So, it's possible that you felt safe in your home and never even considered it.
No, I never considered anything like that. Never. I know there's several times ghosts have followed me home. I have had, my doorbell ringing, or when nobody's there, I've actually even had phone calls and answer the phone, or go to answer my house phone, and it says the number is my house number. So the call was from the inside of my house. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's creepy.
With that caller ID.
Yeah.
The caller ID was my number that I
Ay.
was answered. Yes. So it's, yeah, there's some weird things out there.
There are for
But
sure.
never in my life did I ever think I'd see something like that in my house.
Wow. But what a brave girl. That's really amazing, and I'm really impressed because there's most adults wouldn't be able to sit through that and keep their composure.
Yeah. Once I got in the room, she was okay. But when
Hmm.
like I said, I wasn't in the room that time. Most of the time when she would hear the footsteps, I wasn't even in the house. I was outside. Or, well, I might have been in the house, but like in a shower. But that time, yeah,
Hmm.
she was terrified. So
Yeah,
I've never, ever heard her so scared before.
but
And because she is pretty brave girl.
yeah, to be able to work through that
Yeah.
fear and still help and that's very powerful. So, good job, Jamie. You did great,
Hmm.
and you did better than most of us
Thank
would
you.
have done. You're welcome. You're very welcome. But very cool, and I really appreciate you calling in and sharing those stories. That's really amazing. And Jamie, thank you so much for sharing your stories on the show. That's really amazing.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Tell them we can hear you.
I said, you're welcome.
Oh, cool.
You're so quiet.
And if you think up any more, Jamie, please call back, and I'd love to hear those as well.
Okay.
She
Okay.
says, okay. Thank you, Brent.
All right, guys. Have a great night, and thank you for being a part of the show.
All right. We love it.
All right, we love you
All
too.
right, bye.
All right, very cool. Yeah, what a brave child. Amazing, amazing kids. I tell you, kids can do extraordinary things. We oftentimes marginalize children because they're small and they haven't been through as much. But man, kids have done amazing things and can do amazing things. And I didn't have to talk for that whole time very much. That was wonderful. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next story then. Excuse me, I should have muted that, but sometimes I don't have a lot of warning. So this one's coming from Indiana. It says, this is a story my uncle told me one summer when it became clear that certain members of our family seemed to have a sense for things paranormal. Boy, that's a theme tonight, isn't it? I love it how I don't always know what the show's going to be about, but the show kind of creates itself. So this is definitely a clairvoyant or clairsentient night here on the Paranormal Portal. It is well known that my late grandmother on my mother's side often had prophetic dreams and had encountered ghosts not only at home in Ohio, but around the world on her vacations abroad as well. She was certainly a very spiritual woman. When I was 17, I was telling my uncle about the strange occurrences in my family's home in Columbus, Ohio, but this is his story. He believed, unlike many people, every word of it and told me he too had felt privy to things usually unseen. His story takes place in a very old farmhouse out in the countryside near West Lafayette in Indiana. My uncle bought the house in the late 1980s when the house was already well over 100 years old. It was supposedly built around or slightly after the Civil War, and it was remodeled inside but still retained many original designs and decorations. It was fairly large, as houses tended to be back then, and was big enough for his family of 5. The first thing that alerted him to something strange in the house was the door to the attic. It always has to do with either a basement or an attic. I don't know what that is, but which is at the top of the stairs going from the first to second floor. On a few occasions, as he would walk up these stairs, he would watch the doorknob start turning slowly as if someone was about to open it from the other side. The doorknob would turn all the way, but the mechanism would not click, and the door never did open. My uncle would always open the door himself, albeit begrudgingly and with bated breath, and find nothing on the other side. But that's not even the weirdest thing about this place. Maybe this next bit has less to do with the house and more to do with our family. Then again, maybe something about the grounds was charged, so to speak, with supernatural energy. We just don't have the necessary tools or language to adequately deal with the possibilities quite yet. At any rate, my uncle and my aunt were in the midst of a divorce. Like most, it wasn't a pretty one. And at this point, my male cousins were about 12 and 10, and my female cousin was only 2 years old. One night, my uncle woke to a child crying in his room, and he looked over, and there, standing in the open doorway to his room, was his oldest son, and Q. They used the initial Q. The door opened into my uncle's room, and Q was standing with his back against the door, facing my uncle, but his head was dropped so that his chin was on his chest. My uncle called out his name, but he received no response from Q. Then slid down the door to the floor so that he was mostly squatting on the floor with his back against the door, and his head drooped and crying faintly. My uncle got out of bed and approached his son, trying to comfort him, but as he neared the door, he reached down with his left hand to tussle the boy's head to see if he was all right. As my uncle's hand came to Q's head, his hand went right through it, and his body just simply dissipated into nothing. Without even pausing at the incredible thing that just happened, my uncle sensed this was obviously strange, bolted down the hallway to Q's room, thinking it was a premonition of death or sickness. He flung open the door to Q's room, only to find him sleeping soundly in his bed. My uncle checked on him, and everything seemed normal. My cousin never had any health problems or anything before or since. My uncle suspects it was a manifestation of his son's anguish over the divorce. I would agree, yeah. Perhaps it was all in his head, but being an internationally esteemed professor at a university, my uncle is highly cerebral and logical and not prone to flights of fancy. Then again, what else could account for such mysterious engagement? This is not necessarily a ghost story, but it seems to be evidence of some emotional link between family members. Wow. That's really profound. They say that, some people believe that poltergeists are manifestations of profound issues or just, it doesn't always issues. It's just a profound energy, and it's usually centered around girls or becoming teens. But I suppose anybody could create an apparition of sorts just with unresolved guilt or sadness or whatever. It could create those impressions. Now, we did cover a story a while ago, and I don't know if many of you will remember it or not, but it was about a woman whose husband was deployed over in Iraq, and he was killed. And she was pregnant at the time, expecting the birth of her child. And she said for months, she just walked around the house, and she usually leaned against the sink in the kitchen and just cried and cried and cried. And she did this over and over for a period of weeks. Well, she finally sold the house and moved out, and she was still in touch with the neighbors. And so after a period of time, she got in contact with her neighbors or stopped by or whatever, and they asked them, how everything was, and they got to talking about the house she used to live in, and they said, yeah, the new owners are really having an issue. And she goes, why? And they go, well, there's an apparition of a pregnant woman crying at the sink in the kitchen all the time. So, and this woman was very much alive. But that manifestation of that energy created this residual impression that kept replaying. And so she hadn't passed. It wasn't her spirit, but maybe it was a part of her spirit that was broken in that period, and that part of her spirit just stayed in that place because that pain was so profound. It doesn't always take a death to create a haunting, but residual hauntings, of course, aren't intelligent. They just are events that replay. But I found that absolutely fascinating that they don't require the person to be deceased. That perhaps a lot of these hauntings could be people that are still living, but it's just that emotional charge they left behind becomes a residual haunt. So, very interesting. But I got another call, and this is our wonderful Diane Swiger calling in. How you doing, Diane?
Hello, lovely everybody, and lovely Brent. And whoa, I can't hear you.
You can or you can't?
Now I can.
Oh.
Now you're in.
Okay.
For a minute you popped out there, but I thought, I'm pretty talkative. I'll call in and give his voice a rest a minute here.
By all means, take it away.
Okay, loves. By the way, Virginia and Jamie, you did great. Boy, is she lucky to have a grandma like you. Oh, geez, they did great. You know what? I wish I would have had that. I wish I would have had somebody like that when I was going through this. Ah, geez, would have been nice. It's nice to know that a kid is not going to have to go through the nobody believes me and I have to shut up phase.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, that's wonderful.
Hmm.
Um, because a lot of us go through that, and it's really, I think there's a lot of damage there. But I'm going to give you a little. The last thing you mentioned, it was kind of interesting.
Oh,
I
okay.
was going to talk about something else, but the residual haunting of a person who is still alive.
Hmm.
I can speak to that a little bit because from a shamanic viewpoint, and I'm sure you've heard of this before, there's this thing called soul loss or spirit loss. Some people call it spirit loss.
Hmm.
And it's like a part of you kind of breaks off and gets trapped somewhere. And it's usually due to some extremely emotional event.
Sure.
And it's something that a shaman is supposed to be able to put back for you in place. And it needs to go back to its owner.
Oh.
So if that happens, if you run into a thing like that, you can send it back to its owner. But in the old days, well, I'm giving you a little bit of Shaman 101. The shamanic three worlds. There's the middle world, the above world, and the underworld, which these are in dream time. When you go into dream time, they'll tell you that there are basically three divisions, and the middle world is a lot like this one, but it's in a different time period usually.
Hmm.
This is where the time slips and stuff happen, and people leaving bits of themselves in another time.
Oh.
Then there's the above world, which is kind of ethereal, and that's another place. People love to go to that one because it's usually very pretty and light and ethereal, and there are some less flighty aspects of it, but it's really a beautiful. The underworld can be nice, but it's very earthy. Usually it's darker. That's where you also find a lot of things that are not so pleasant.
Mm.
So in these three worlds is where the shaman goes to look for the missing soul pieces. And this is said to cause almost all of the disease. Now, the way I look at it, it's usually more like, a lot of times, like it's just sort of a cut-off piece of your, like a boxed off, sectioned off piece. Because the human psyche wants to protect itself from trauma so that it can go on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you cannot be constantly in trauma and live your life. So we have a mechanism, and I'm sure you all know about this too, that we just kind of partition it off and set it aside. But if we leave it there, it can get stuck and cause all kinds of problems.
Oh.
So
Okay.
eventually it's got to be released
Oh.
if you want to be healthy. Now, a lot of people who have had major trauma, they get thrown back into a earlier time. And this is a major sign of soul loss, what they call soul loss. Now, there's different takes on exactly what they're calling soul loss is, but we're going to call it that because it's what they call it in shamanism. And so basically what the shaman would do would go into dream time, find the missing soul piece, and bring it back in. And usually they would use what is called, not a dream catcher, but a soul catcher, which is usually an object that the shaman takes into dream time and puts the piece in there and then brings it back and gives it back to the person and breathes it back into the person. That is the standard procedure for that. You know, there's drumming, there's, trance and that, but that's the standard procedure. Well, the first one I ever did was a little girl who had been, I don't know if I'd told this story before or not. Have I told this one?
I don't recognize it
Where
yet.
her mother came to me at a psychic fair, and I knew it was going to be a weird day because almost nobody was showing up, but it was really rainy and weird, and all of a sudden this mother showed up, and it was like I knew something was about to happen. I had never done a soul retrieval before. I had just read a book about it. And a lot of this is like remembering. You know, if you are a shaman now, you have been it before. You have done this before. If you're crossing over spirits now, you've done it before. This usually is something that you have other lives that you're doing this in. It's the same thing. So there was something familiar about it, but I wasn't sure I believed in it. But here sits this mother, and I'm doing a reading for her, a tarot, well, not tarot, it's animal medicine cards that I do, and Deb does too. That's one of the ways I know she's my sissy poo. And, and I'm looking at the cards, and all of a sudden I'm seeing this little girl, and it's raining, and it's gray, and she's holding a toy, and she's looking very sad, and while I'm talking to the mother, and then I start telling the mother what I'm seeing, and I'm saying, for some reason I'm seeing this. And then she broke down and cried and said, I think you're seeing my daughter. She hasn't been the same ever since I left her with I had to leave her for just a little while with my boyfriend while I went out to do something. And when I got back, she was never the same. Something had to have happened, but I could never figure out what happened. And she wouldn't tell me because she's been hostile ever since. She won't let anybody touch her. She's angry all the time. She's kind of depressed. We don't know what to do about it. This happened when she's 8. She's 12 now. This has been 4 years.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, oh, my gosh. Well, I had never done a soul retrieval, but obviously this is what was needed. And so and Lewis will love this. At that time, the guy that was helping me with soul retrievals was a bear. He really was.
Oh, wow.
The guy that was helping me learn soul retrieval was the bear. And he said, it's okay, you can do this. I said, I've never done this. He said, of course you have. Not in this life yet, but you need to know how to do this. Oh, okay. So I just took instructions. I just did it. And I said, but I don't have a soul catcher. He goes, yes, you do. You have all these. I had all these stones that I would give away as part of the reading. I would give people a little token, a nice little tumbled stone. And he said the blue lace agate. And I thought, yeah, that's right. Blue lace agate is the energy of a young girl. So, yeah, that fits. Okay, so here I am holding this piece of blue lace agate, wandering through here, and the mother is in tears, and I'm like, it's okay. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. I'll tell you what's going on. And so here I go. I said, honey, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Your mom, I asked her what's wrong. She says, my mother, I want her to come back. She's never coming back. I don't think she's ever coming back. And I said, your mom did come back. You just don't remember. I said, look, your mom, you go here and go with the bear, and he will show you your mom. You go right in here, and I showed her the stone. It was weird. I didn't know how I knew this. Here, you go in here. I'm going to give this to your mom, and she's going to have it. It's all going to be okay. And you just follow the bear, okay? And she says, okay. And she was just, it was just so, you know how heart-wrenching, well, you, of all people, I know that you would feel this. It's like, it's very heart-wrenching, these things. This is why Sean won't do this kind of thing.
Sure.
It's too much for him. He's way too emotional to do this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he leaves it to me or Joel. So, you know, I did what I was supposed to do. I gave her the stone, and I said, okay, here. Make sure she gets this, and, you know, then please get back to me about what happens, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she feels a little better. I say, don't worry, it's going to be all right. I'm told it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. So she comes back to me. And by the way, when I described the toy and everything, the mother says, oh, my gosh, that is her little toy, and I had to leave her, and I didn't want to leave her. And, you know, it was, so emotional.
Sure.
So the next psychic fair, she comes up to me, and she says, it was just amazing. I wanted to tell you, I may write a book about this.
Wow, you should.
She says, I think I'm going to write a book about this kind of thing or something, because I set it on her desk. She wouldn't accept anything, but I set it on her dresser. That's right, her dresser near her bed,
Mm-hmm.
and just left it there. Figured she'd pick it up. So, and then I left the room. She was just lying on her bed, and she wasn't talking. She didn't want to talk. And within 5 minutes, she came in with the stone in her hand and got up on my lap and gave me a hug and started wanting connection again.
Oh, that's great.
But it was like the 4 years were, you know, never happened.
Right.
She had her girl back, and she was very happy. So this is an important thing. You've got to realize that you too can do this for yourself, although in some cases you need some help. You need people to help you, because sometimes it's so traumatic you can't do it yourself.
Right.
Or it's so stuck you can't do it yourself.
Yeah.
But it is an important thing to do. If you have something like that that's still affecting you, you may have a missing piece, and if you have a missing piece, please either try to get it back yourself or try to get some help to get it back, and you will feel a whole lot better and be more like what you need to be. Because, and that, I didn't even know if I believed in it, and here I did it, and it's like it turned out to be all true. So, you know, if you run into a residual haunting like that and you know that it's a person who is still alive, I am not sure how I would handle that if I didn't know the person or couldn't get in touch with the person. I think I would still try to send the piece back to them. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe the spirit guide could bring it back to them.
Yeah, maybe find, call for their spirit guide and say you need to give this piece back to its owner.
Right.
Because it's important. I mean, some of the memories I have were spirit pieces that were returned to me.
Oh.
And I mean, some of the memories I told you, I think what happened was, it's a theory of mine that we got so traumatized that's how we lost all our memories, and that we're kind of we've been paying the price for it.
Sure.
I know that if we're billions of years old here on this planet, I mean, according to some writings, it's been billions of years.
Sure. Yeah.
We've been human, And so we have a lot of memory, things we can't remember, obvious. I mean, we're looking at the mud flood stuff. We're looking at the monolithic buildings. We're looking at all the old legends. And now I got to tell you about the Mud Fossil University in Roger sometime, and hope you can get Roger on the show sometime because he's a very interesting guy. He actually found out that Morocco is the whole body of a dragon. The
Wow.
dragon is Morocco. It's really fun. I'm going to have to, but it's one of the things I'm going to bring up when I come on the show to talk about that is that
Sure.
we have found these huge creatures, and you can see the outline of it, and the outline of the fish he was killing. He was catching a fish to eat, obviously, a huge fish,
Wow.
prehistoric fish. And you can see the outline of it, and you can see the scales, and I'm like, oh my God, how much of this really exists? We don't even know what it is, what we're looking at. We don't know what we're looking at. We are living on all of these fossilized remains.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
bizarre.
I
So
believe it.
we probably have thousands of missing soul pieces.
Yeah.
And that's why we can't remember our past lives. We probably have thousands of them that are waiting to come back. And when we do, we're going to know a whole lot of things. Like when the geos touched the stones, that was probably his soul pieces coming back.
Sure.
Probably what that actually was. Probably was stored there for safety, so that they could remember at some later date.
Right.
And how many of us left stuff around like that because we knew something was coming up, right?
Yeah.
Where we would forget. So, well, that was just my piece that I wanted to say tonight.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and it's always great to hear from you, and you always add some really cool flavor to the show, so thank you.
Well, good. I hope it's kind of a horseradish cheddar, because that's my favorite kind of chips, the flavor. I'm being silly.
I don't like horseradish, so
I love you.
we love you
I
too,
do.
Dee.
I like
All right, have a great night, and thank you.
Okay, too. Rest your voice a little after this.
Oh, yeah.
Eat some horseradish.
I'll sit quietly,
Yeah.
I promise. All right, we'll talk to you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a special hello to my cousin Paul and his wife Melissa, who are all listening right now out in the netherworld. But I think that's going to wrap up our journey tonight because, well, it's been about an hour, and that's about all my voice is going to give you, I'm afraid. And thank you to all the callers. Jamie, I really appreciate you calling in and sharing your experience. I'm incredibly proud of you, and I whatever you decide to do, just I think just know that we think it's just wonderful what you've already done. So, and Dee, thank you always. It's always great to hear from you, and all of you in the chat room, and those of you watching wherever you're watching. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and your soul pieces if they're laying around. And remember to laugh when you can. So, love you guys. Have a good night and sweet dreams.